seriously doing this here? That's... wow.
You guys are the worst.
Huh?
You want to talk about Final Fantasy Remake? How's that going?
I mean, it's pretty good. I finally got past like the tutorial stuff. And I guess I'm sort of into the story, but you know, like I'm sure everyone said, it's not the whole story of Final Fantasy VII. It's literally like the first fifth of it. And they kind of did the Hobbit where they stretched it out. And the gameplay is really fun. The combat is like, you know, pretty fluid. I actually enjoy that you can switch between the characters and they all have different like fighting styles. Like I got Tifa and I actually started liking her more than the main character. I started switching to her like almost immediately in every fight. She just beat the shit out of people and uppercut them.
You just want to see her boobies.
I want to see him jiggle while I uppercut someone. That's damn right. But and the only like little complaint I have, and I kind of knew this was gonna happen when you stretch this like a story like that over and make it a whole game. But yeah, when you stretch it out, you're gonna get some like, you know, lulls in the story. And I hit my first town, and I wouldn't even be mad at it so much if it didn't feel like it was kind of not hitting Cloud's character. Because in the beginning, he's very much like, I'm a mercenary. I'm here for the money. Pay me my fucking money. And in the original, like, they pay him and like, you're there like for a second where they give you some more tutorial shit. Then like, all right, next big mission, we're going to go blow up another reactor because we're terrorists.
Oh yeah, that's right. You guys are basically, are you the bad guys?
No, well, you're like freedom, like, you know, corporations, the bad guy. They're killing the planet by sucking the blood out of it. But yeah, to society, you're the bad guys because you are blowing up their power generators. It'd be like people blowing up oil rigs in modern day world. Sure, they're saving the environment, but is it worth it, you know?
Right.
But yeah, like, you know, you're the bad guys. Although, when another thing but, you know, this one, you hit the town and they're like, yeah, you're a mercenary. Come do these random odd jobs for us that are like way beneath your skill set. And Claude's like, oh, I guess I gotta build up contacts. Like, no, you don't. Like, you were already like known as an ex-soldier, which is like their elite military group.
I don't have to fucking prove myself. Do you know who I am?
Yeah, I was just like, this is kind of a little off character. Just to, you know, pad the story a little bit. And I could skip it. Like, a lot of them were side missions, but, you know, I wanted to get the full experience.
Yeah.
It seems like I also unlocked an extra cutscene by like doing the side missions, which were really nice.
It's always satisfying, you know, when you take the time to, you know, do the side missions or side quests in a game. And it kind of, I mean, the reward in itself should be like actually doing the content that the game has to offer. But it's always nice when you get a little extra kudos for doing the stuff.
It's just like, got an extra item too.
Yeah, that's always a nice, fun benefit. How does it compare to the original Final Fantasy?
Well, the original
7
was amazing. I mean, mind you, I'm only so far into it. I know the story does deviate in this one because it's not necessarily a remake as much as it's like eventually it branches off. I know that.
Okay.
It's its own unique story. But, you know, I mean, the combat's modernized. It's more intuitive. Instead of just click your command, click this guy. There's blocking. I don't know when to, because a lot of the attacks, like, you don't even notice they're coming. Or even a lot of them, even that they've hit you. I've only noticed like, oh, my health isn't at 100%. Don't remember getting hit, but I guess random bullets flew at me. And there's dodging, but not a lot of the attacks are like well choreographed to like where you can see them.
You mean telegraph?
Telegraph, whatever. Same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why I always mix that up. But
as soon as you said choreographed, I just imagine like a dance-off.
Yeah. And so that's probably my only complaint. Like, I like that I get to move around on the battlefield and attack things, and there are different styles. But defending against enemy attacks feels awkward. And I don't think I'm really going to get it until maybe a second playthrough when I like know each individual attack and like what dodges it. Or if I even need to, if I can just take the hit and go on. I know I'm not on the easy difficulty setting. I don't think I put it on hard though. But like it almost made me kind of weird because I was sitting there and I know you're gonna fucking roll your eyes at this one, but I'm like, but if we're doing an action RPG like this, why did we even do this like weird kind of hybrid where you do your basic attacks, but then you build up a bar to do like special attacks, which are basically any other command other than basic attacks, like items, magic. And then it like sort of slows down the game almost like VATS. And then you do that. And you have to do that for each character. Part of me was like, why didn't they just use a Kingdom Hearts-esque style of combat?
Of course.
It's the
Why
same
didn't
damn
they
company.
do Kingdom Hearts?
But it was like Cloud was even in Kingdom Hearts. Like it would have fit. Like it would have added a lot more fluidity to their attacks.
And when you talk about VATS, you're referring to Fallout 3,
And 4.
and 4, where you can sort of everything slows down and you can take the time to like target like a specific body part and then execute. It almost turns it into a mini sort of turn-based a little bit.
And that's how they do this one. Like you build up these bars while you're attacking and moving, and then you can build it up to storing 2, and then you can do 2 commands. And I don't know, like it's cool, but it's kind of like it almost feels micromanaging after a point. Because I'm only controlling 2 characters, and I'm already like I basically just pick one and sometimes put in the commands on the other one. Luckily, they do have things you can equip the characters that give them like auto cast on certain spells in certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to micromanage every aspect.
That would annoy me. And I know when I played Final Fantasy VII Remake, I only played it for like an hour and a half or something like that. But like the first part where I could switch to that guy who had the machine gun arm, and I could switch to him for a little bit and then switch back to what's his face, Cloud, the main character.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little annoyed. Like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Just,
And you, in all honesty, you can not do that, at least in the beginning parts. And just when you're going to hit the commands for the other person, you can just hit R2 and just manage their commands, then go back to the other person. But it just like felt a little like it took me out of things every once in a while.
yeah, I can see that. It's a little jarring.
Yeah. Because the AI on them doesn't even seem to have a lot of self-preservation. I left Tifa alone for like 5 seconds in this one like mini boss. And I was like, Jesus, why do I have to keep healing you? Like, hit circle every once in a while, woman. It's free.
No, I want you to control me.
Yeah, well, and then the cool thing about her though, they already added like some new commands. Because, you know, in the beginning of the first game, there wasn't a lot of items you got in these first areas. Like, they were basic, like, you had the 3 basic spells and then cure for damage. And then there was like, I think you got steal, and that was like about it before you left the first town. This one, they already gave her like a non-mana cost, like self-heal that also cured poison. Because she's like meant to be like a monk. It's called Chakra. And that was a nice little nod to Final Fantasy Tactics that I like. And she could just like do that. Oh yeah, well, sorry, I got off track. But like the story already kind of felt like I was hitting, it was like stretching it out a bit more than it needed to, because I've been playing it for a while now, and we haven't even gotten to the second mission that comes in the story, which is the second bombing of a reactor where things don't go quite as planned. And it kicks off like Cloud being separated from spoiler alerts, I guess. If you guys haven't played this 20-year-old fucking game. It separates Cloud from the main 2 people that he's with, and he meets the other quote-unquote love interest that becomes important to the story. When your boss fight blows up. I have heard good things about the main boss fights that I'm excited to try. They said they made them all pretty like fun and engaging, which, you know, Final Fantasy VII, the original, was great, but just because of how the combat worked, not a lot of the fights were intuitive.
So would you say that this is not really a remaking, but more like a rebooting?
Sort of. I mean, the stuff that I have spoiled for me, I don't even know if I want to say it. Well, I mean, it's been out long enough. People should fucking know. Basically, the one character has knowledge of the entire story, and she's trying her best to make it so it's not as, doesn't follow the same events, and she, like, it's not as tragic. And in doing so, these little spirits come out to fuck up the world and try and bring things back the way they were. And you're kind of like fighting against fate almost, as fate tries to correct itself. But, and which is cool, like, go nuts. I mean, I like the idea of like seeing the same characters and having a new story added to it. And I think this one ends with them kind of breaking it, so the next ones can be their own new interpretation of it,
Yeah.
which would be better than just, you know, retelling the story. Although I think Final Fantasy VII had a great story that everyone should play through, but it's good that they're trying not to just hit all the same beats.
Yeah, change
But
it up
one
a little
thing
bit.
that I've noticed that's kind of pissing me off is that they're kind of like watering down that you're a goddamn terrorist organization. Like, I just did this one mission where I went to, like, you know, the evil corporation soldiers captured this guy. He was going to rat us out. And we went and we fought the soldiers. Mind you, Cloud has a sword bigger than most humans. And I just beat the shit out of these guys with this sword. And then he actually goes, like, this guy's a talker, and he goes to, like, kill him. And, like, Tifa's like, no, don't, you know, like, we're not like that. And I'm like, what do you think I just did, lady? This sword was not just bruising these people the way he swung it. And he went to kill them too. She's like, don't do it. I'm like, I'm surprised they're not already dead.
So what's confusing to me is, so is Final Fantasy Remake then considered the canon version of telling that story? Or are they going with like some sort of
I think it's
weird...
going to be branching. Like alternate.
That to me is
timeline.
lazy.
Well, how else are you going to redo the story? I mean,
You just call
the
it
first one's
you
canon,
call it a reboot and say this is the way that it's supposed to be told.
Now comes the hard part.
but people are still going to like the old way, and that's... I mean, it doesn't even matter. It's not like they have a giant connecting universe to
That's
worry
true.
about the canon for these. Like, each Final Fantasy is its own game.
Yeah, that's I always forget about that a little bit.
Except actually 10 and 7 are connected, but by such a long-ass period of time that it doesn't actually matter. 10's a prequel to 7, but it's like, you only know that if you read this random manual. Like, they're like, oh, by the way, this guy goes and colonizes the planet that is 7. I'm like, that adds nothing to either of these stories, but thank you.
I guess.
Yeah. And like, but yeah, like, Cloud's a killer. He's a soldier. You're going around like killing these pests, but in the other game, you were frequently fighting soldiers even in the streets. And they'd pop up and try to kill you. And it's like, yeah, you're doing some very ethically great things to achieve your edge. You're blowing up fucking power plants, guys. Like, you're not fucking, you know,
You're not the
you're not Mother Teresa over here.
right. You're not Gandhi.
Yeah, like, yeah, the organization fucking sucks dick, but they are providing power to a large metropolis. Do they need to? Probably not. The rest of the world is pretty well uncolonized in the Final Fantasy VII world. There's plenty of free space. They didn't need to build this giant central city. But
They just did it because.
yeah, I'm excited to see. I know this one ends with like the end of the Midgar portion of the story. I'm excited to see how the rest of it plays out, because 7 had a big world and weird fucking monsters. Like, 7 was like the last time they kind of just went balls to the walls with random monster design. 8 and onward, they kind of had these like staple Final Fantasy minions that they just kind of been revamping
Gotcha.
and modernizing. But in this one, you had like, I know it's one of the boss fights in this game. It was just a random enemy in the first one, like a house that just has a mouth and fights you. And that would just be chilling somewhere. And like a fucking tank that was also half Triceratops. It was
'Cause of why
bonkers
not?
shit. Like, I was like, how the fuck does this shit even wait?
But it's cool.
It was cool.
Yeah, when something, you know, off the wall like that comes into a video game, but it actually sort of still works.
And it even makes sense in the confines of like the realm, because they're in the Final Fantasy VII like lore, them messing around with like the lifeblood of the planet and the radiation from it. That's how they make monsters, and some of them are made accidentally. Because you find that out like on this one like flashback scene where that's what sets the main villain off. He finds out like, oh my god, they've been making monsters. Like, it's the energy from this, like, making them. And he's like, am I a monster? Because they're using the same energy to make these super soldiers. And, like, he has this moral dilemma that, like, basically makes him insane.
Huh.
And it was cool.
Do you have anything else you want to add to Final Fantasy VII?
Really fun. I think everyone should give it a try. I like that they took the Final Fantasy IX style of weapon skills where you have to equip in a weapon to get a certain skill. Then after you like master it, you can use it on other weapons. It gives you a reason to like hunt for different weapons and use them for a while. And each weapon levels up and has their own little talent tree that you fill out.
Yeah, I kind of saw you go into that. It looked interesting.
I don't know how diverse it gets.
Okay, mission complete. Let's make our way back to the lot.
Right.
If you want to listen to the rest of that conversation, feel free to check out the Waiting on Cooldowns podcast. I went ahead and put a link in the description since I know you're so goddamn curious. Like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.
I bet you held back because I was with you.
Didn't want you to fall.
So now I'm too weak to stay on a bike? Huh?
Just hold on tight, will you?